I hope you've been enjoying the Black Future House today, checking out all the activities they have to offer across the house, tons of things. Don't forget they're giving out massages back there for free. You should do them. I know I did. It was really nice. But anyway, enough about that. What I can tell you, though, is that we've been having fantastic conversations throughout this weekend. And we're going to keep that train going with the next one that's coming up. It's going to be talking about a subject that I hold really close to my heart. I know, especially in the Black and BIPOC community, mental health awareness and fighting that stigma is a very, very difficult but important thing to get through. And I think this conversation today is going to really send that home. So I think without further ado, let's start you out with a little video there.
Project Blackbird, our nonprofit organization, it features a screening of the film Blackbird. The film Blackbird is based on our own story to help everybody understand what lies beneath eating disorders, as well as help everyone understand the power of connection.
Eating disorders have the highest mortality rate than any mental health diagnosis. It is now second to the opioid crisis.
For me, what really drives me is once I was able to acknowledge my own eating disorder, I started looking around my community and I saw it everywhere I looked. I saw the disconnect between the pain that people were experiencing and how people were showing up to their lives, and that internal silent hurt that is so loud, so incredibly loud. I was living in a world where the eating disorder for me was a passive way to die because I didn't know how to live.
At a young age, I had to really create a very close internal relationship with myself because I was in my brain a lot. So I knew in my life that oh, my relationship to myself is kind of the most important relationship. And I cannot actually have an external relationship unless my internal is at a place where I can give myself.
I think all of us just want to feel understood. I hope that somebody has the bravery to acknowledge what they're feeling and to say, maybe I've been struggling and maybe I don't have to, alone or at all. That we can just talk, that we can make it normal to say, I'm struggling. It's okay to not be okay, and it's vulnerable, it's scary, but it's incredibly powerful.
There's nothing more risky than authenticity and showing up to the world vulnerably.
We will be taking this tour to cities around the United States. We're going internationally as well.
So to use the narrative film to engage these students as we go on tour, we're doing about 50 different college campuses this year.
We take this event to conferences and organizations, and we're excited to see who our partners will be and who we'll be able to chat with down the road and who will be able to help, and the stories that we'll be able to hear too.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Alexandra Miles, and I am the founder of Project Blackbird, Inc. I am really excited to share with you the Project Blackbird event in a special way here at South by Southwest. So as the video showed, we do this at various different college campuses. We were at Sundance, so we do film festivals as well. And festivals, I guess, that are tech festival, film festival, music festival, and all of the above. So here we are, and today you'll get to experience the event that we take around. What that looks like is a screening of the film that is about Kendra Williams, who you just got the chance to meet virtually. Kendra Williams and we met at a treatment center back in 2018 in Los Angeles, and we then began to take our story on the road, share our story with different audiences to help get rid of the shame and the silence that currently exists in a lot of different communities when it comes to mental health, something that we both experienced in our own communities. And as we take this on the road, we invite different guests to share their story and their voice with our audiences as well. And then we have our audience, you all, share your own story. On your seats, you'll find journal prompts. And following the panel that we'll have today, you'll have the opportunity to fill it out yourself, share your story, and anonymously leave that behind and take home with you one of our prior participants' responses so that you can connect with a stranger. So without further ado, I will share with you my own story through our film, and then I'll invite some really special guests up to share theirs.
Don't even try. I'm Noah. Like the Ark. You got a name? Because you look like a Chantel. I get it. This place can be a bit rough.
Backwards and step on the scale. Turn around backwards and step on the scale. Turn around backwards and step on the scale.
What did you do? How could you do this to me? I'm your mother. Just close your eyes, baby. Don't you dare think about leaving.
For those of you who haven't had the opportunity yet, I'd like to introduce Alma. Is there anything you'd like to say to the group? Maybe share where you're from or your favorite... Alma. Another time then. There's no one reason why we're here. But wouldn't it be nice if there was? A common enemy we could turn against. A bad habit we could break. Just like that, that'd be it.
I need to put some stuff in your drawers on Visitor's Day. That cool? My mom hates messes, and I totally ran out of space on my side of the room. My dad'll be more pissed that I never got rid of this. Your parents come in, Blackbird? Refuse to talk to me, and that's your name. Blackbird. Love it, hate it, doesn't matter to me. Yeah. Blackbird staring at me, so I'm playing this song. She looks like she wants to kill me, and that's okay. Maybe one day she'll tell me to stop, but I'll keep charging, 'cause I'm a rhino, rhino, rhino. Stop writing!
Backwards and step on the scale.
Alma? Alma? Alma!
You have a visitor.
Alma? Alma? This what we're doing now? Keeping quiet? I was told I can't compliment you. Say that you look good, bad, whatever. Paige wanted to come today. Been asking about you. I didn't even know this place allowed visitors. Flashed them. Your mother was denied, parole. I figured you want to know. If it helps with this process or something.
Stop! Stop!
My mother used to have this saying. Say it to me every time I come to her upset about something. Isaac, she'd say, put your problems in a paper bag. And I stare at her, right? Completely confused. Put your problems in a paper bag. And then she'd say, now throw that bag in a pile of other bags. So I close my eyes and imagine this huge mound of paper bags, each filled with someone else's problems. Now say you go grab a paper bag, but you accidentally grab someone else's. Are you all right with taking someone else's problems?
They called, It's not like they just bailed. It's just like them. They would have shown up for my brother. I don't care. I don't. It's fine. He's always been the favorite. Which is fine. I mean, he was my favorite too. He had this way of making everything just better. And it's not like I was popular then like I am now. When shit would happen, like some girl at school would call me weird, or some other would invite everyone to her birthday party except for me. And I'd come home crying, like really upset and surprised for some reason. And he'd look at me with this. And take me up to his room, and we'd lie on the carpet and stare at the ceiling and listen to whatever band he was into at the time, and we'd listen to it over and over again until I knew the words to every chorus. And he was smart. Like, really smart. He got a scholarship to state, so we went, and he'd call me every week and he'd tell me about the classes and the girls. And even though he was across the state, it felt like we were back on that carpet again. And I needed that.
because we were freshmen. And shit was hard. Like, really hard. But even though we talked all the time, there were things that he didn't tell me. Because it's hard to imagine someone would want to leave. Especially when I'm still around to miss him. Really? Nothing? Just fucking talk. I know you can hear me.
Woe no more, all you wandering wanderers. Finding home, all the wandering wanderers. For whatever life will unfold, be it ours to behold. Releasing holds on life and holding on to letting go. For not all birds were taught to fly. Some took a dive and landed in the sky. And thoughts of me up there just seemed too high. Till came a time to choose the air or choose to die.
Thank you all for experiencing my story, my journey, for sitting through what's sometimes really hard and sometimes uncomfortable, but real and authentic. And I'm really grateful to be able to share it with you all. We take this around to showcase connection and how important it is to really take a minute to look at each other and understand what might be happening underneath, because you have no idea when you look into someone's eyes what's happening behind them. So with that, I want to invite up three very special guests today that are being incredibly vulnerable, sharing their story, having shared their story before. They had different paths, but some of those same underlying emotions, and I'm really grateful to them to be here today to share their journey with you. So, if I can have three of you come up.
So what's going on, everybody? I'm Marcus Smith II, former 6-year NFL veteran. I own a company called The Circle of M, where we unmask the feelings that cause anxiety and depression. And what you see here today is us really just bringing a locker room to you. Some of the conversations that we have in the locker room, obviously, this is called, redefining what a real man looks like, right? And I think we can attest to that as we have been going through anxiety, depression, going through a lot of things with football. But I'm gonna give them a chance to introduce themselves too as well.
Hey everyone, I'm Corey Coleman, former retired NFL vet, 7 years played, got drafted first round in Cleveland, 2016. Yeah.
Dominique Easley from Staten Island, New York, drafted in the first round 2014 to the New England Patriots. Had the opportunity to win the Super Bowl in 2014, but also had the unfortunate opportunity to lose to them as well in 2019. And now father of 5 and an entrepreneur in many different avenues.
Yeah, so redefining a man to us, well, for me, is vulnerability. Obviously, we understand what vulnerability is, but growing up in the communities that we come from, that's not something that we did. I never really had emotional intelligence. I never really seen my father really open up, or I never really seen my father actually hug my mother in a way that was affectionate, right? Because he just truly felt like he couldn't show his weakness, right? And that's why we're up here today. So, Corey, I want to come to you first. For you, what does that look like to you as far as redefining what a man looks like?
I would have to say definitely being strong and being vulnerable, defining what success looks like for you. I can speak for us three. We played, football, and we was in a locker room where it was a lot of, being compared. Well, this guy got this contract. I think I'm better than him. I deserve this. So I think taking it back is like what really works for you. Not comparing yourself, finding, peace within yourself, and able to, have deep conversations with someone you trust, and opening up, and it is okay, to feel these certain emotions, which is frowned upon, with men. And I feel like it's very important, that we have these conversations and we go in depth and stuff, because we deal with a lot of stuff that, the world and a lot of people, are scared to come out and to really open up and say.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. You talking about in a locker room, be able to talk to our brothers like that, but what about you, Dominique?
For me, redefining the man is finding your why. In life, there's a lot of obstacles that come across you and take you off your path of what your why is. And for me, my why was different when I was in my 20s. My why is different now as a 30-year-old man with kids and a wife. So for me, when I started to understand what my why was and how to actually achieve my why, going back to what Corey said as far as success, my why is going to get me to my success.
Yeah, so, oftentimes as football players, we know that there's pressures that come with that. I was a former first rounder, and got drafted to the Eagles, right, which is a market that is super competitive. The fans are crazy, passionate. So I don't know if I was really ready for it, right? I got there. It was a culture shock. I'm coming from Louisville, and I had actually all black coaches. Like, I came from black coaches. And so they were like father figures to me. Like, when my dad wasn't there, they were really there to keep me in line. But once I got to the league, it was like, you're a pro, you got to do what it takes, and we don't need to ask any questions. So I want to talk about the pressures that we all face. What stereotypes or pressures did you guys face while you were playing, how did you overcome them? You can start.
For me, I grew up in New York, so my pressures kind of started real early. Nobody from, as we all here in Texas, everybody from New York knows, right? There's no football in New York, is that what people say? So when I was coming out, I was fortunate enough to be that stepping stone. So pressure, how I took pressure in the way of trying to beat it and not go through with it and not understand what these pressures actually mean for me. So I just put it on my back and walked around like I was a hard rock, right? I didn't have no problems, is what I said. Nothing bothered me, nothing hurt me. So me dealing with pressure was really me hiding from it and facing it. Now, I'm much vulnerable. Like I don't mind sitting here telling my wife, I need help. I'm hurting. This hurt me. You know what I mean? Like, when do you really find a man tell you that they hurt you? Just like that. Like, you don't really hear that from not only a man, but a black man, right? You don't hear that. And for me, that's how I started dealing with my pressures. That's how I started understanding how to actually deal with those pressures in life, and actually how to help people deal with those pressures as well.
Yeah.
I like that. I would have to say it started at an early age for me. Grew up just with my mom and two sisters. Dad was in prison my whole life, pretty much. So I was the man of the house at an early age. And we were, in underprivileged, right? Lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, my mom and two sisters. Sometimes I got to sleep on the couch and stuff. So as time keep on going, I make it. These women are watching my every move. I can't show, at the time, I couldn't show a sign of weakness, because my whole thing was like, I got to get my mom out the hood. I got to go get some money. I got to go do this. I got to change the dynamic of my family, right? But at the time, it's a lot that's building up. And for all the men in here, sometimes, that crown gets heavy, so it drives you to a point where, I went to therapy. I went to a facility where I needed help. I needed someone to sit down and talk to and talk about all this past trauma that I had built up that I didn't even know what it really was, at the time. So I think going to therapy, opening up, and really diving into my emotions to really talk about the things that was going on, all the pressure that was put on me, it helped me to really overcome.
Yeah, no, that's real, bro. I think oftentimes, it's a hard thing to say you need help, to tell your loved one that you're hurting or something is going on with you. I think the physical demands of what we do on and off the field, I think, kind of can go unnoticed. And I want to go to, like, how do we prioritize our mental health? Like, what is the best way that we prioritize our mental health now on the outside looking in? And what are some ways that other people can possibly prioritize their mental health but don't know which way to turn? What about you?
So, no. So, right, when you come from, I'm going back to what you said, when you come from poverty upbringing, like he said, I grew up in the house with a single mother. We lived in a studio apartment. So for us, our sheet separated the living room and the kitchen. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we grew up. Being that said, the reason why I bring that up is I grew up with a strong masculine mom that didn't prioritize her mental health, right? That made me not prioritize my mental health because, you had to be strong. Once I realized going to get help allowed me to succeed in life in many different ways, that's when I started saying, right, it's hard. I can sit here and say I'm going to exit or I'm going to eliminate everything that's negative in my life, but we all don't do that. We all have trauma. We all really go towards trauma because that's what we grew up with. So it's hard to eliminate that, but it's better to start working towards that trauma and recognizing that trauma and really noticing that trauma and appreciating the trauma, because the trauma builds you as a person as well. So as far as the prioritizing my mental health now, that is the first thing that I even do with my kids. Like, me and my kids in the morning, we have a conversation of how we feel. It's not about what you should do. I ask them, how do you feel? You know what I mean? Getting kids to talk about what they feel, facing problems, because we didn't grow up doing that. We didn't grow up understanding how to work through problems. And that's where trauma comes through. Everybody, when problems come up, everybody puts this shield on. Everybody just, holds themselves tight and doesn't let go. So I would advise everybody to go get help, to be honest. Like, that was the best thing that I ever did. Like Marcus said, I went and got help. You know, like I went to a facility, I went and got help, and they taught me about my childhood trauma. So that is what made me prioritize my mental health, realizing that now I can pass this down and break this generational, you know, nonsense that goes on with our community and with people and with men, period. So yeah, now I'm able to give that to my kids, and my kids don't got to go through that I went through. You know?
Yeah, same thing with me. It was, I had to go to the facility too as well, and you know, I have to understand and teach my kids also. Like, I didn't really understand my emotions either, right? The first thing that I learned in therapy was they put this feelings wheel up, right? And I'm not sure if anybody knows it, but they put a feelings wheel up, and you go around the room and you get to look at the feelings wheel and say what you're feeling that day. And you think about it as a kid, like, wow, like, it takes you back to when you talked about trauma a little bit. It takes you back to when you was a kid, like, dang, man, I couldn't even articulate that to my parents, even if I wanted to, when I was a kid. So that opened up the floodgates for me to really understand who the real Marcus Smith was. So yeah, I want to go to you next, Corey. How do you prioritize your mental health?
I would definitely say having a schedule, right? I talk to my therapist twice a week. She's awesome, by the way. And, you know, really just coming up with a plan. I meditate a lot. You know, when stuff get hectic in my life, you know, I meditate. You know, I spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes. That helps me. Definitely, you know, fighting those urges is like the good angel and the bad angel, you know, making a decision, just not, you know, I used to make decisions because I felt this way, you know, instead of really processing it and really thinking it through and stuff. And I learned that skill in therapy. So, like, you know, it's some good coping skills, some bad coping skills. So try to eliminate the bad coping skills and go with the good. Like, one of the good ones for me, like I said, is meditation.
Well, that's what's up, man. And I think also too, as kids, as young men, you know, we may not have that person that we could look up to, who we could be vulnerable with, or we may have a person that we thought was the person that we could look up to, but they taught us, like, to be quiet, right? Not to say much or anything like that. So I'm thinking now, like, all right, man, what would I tell my younger self, or what advice would I give to a young kid who may be going through what I was going through? And I would just say, be vulnerable, right? You be vulnerable first, right? And then that allows people to see it and people to understand what you're going through. And then that will bring awareness. And from awareness, that'll bring your emotional stability, right? So I just feel like that's what I would tell either my young self, or I would tell a young person, hey, man, be vulnerable, speak up. What would you guys say to your young self, or a young person maybe going through mental health issues?
And that's creating a trendset. That's becoming a trendsetter, right? Because that's what the world follows. The world follows what trendset is. So if we start making vulnerability a cool thing, I think the world is going to be all right. You know, I think the world's going to be all right. And for me, I'm going to have to say the same thing you said, really, vulnerability. And that's when everything changed. That's when my relationship changed. That's when my conversations changed. That's when literally everything has changed for me. When I'm able to now find somebody, I can sit there and talk to you and tell you what I have been through in life. You know what I mean? And be perfectly fine. And that'll probably open you up to do the same. And that one thing that would do is take you to do it to the next person. And it's just going to be it's going to be repetitive, and it's going to help the world get better.
I love that, y'all. I would say the same thing. You know, you never know what someone's going through. You know, even for, like, you know, the youth, young guys, it'd be a lot less crime, a lot more violence. You know, if it's not this, you know, put on this front like we're all just tough guys. If I can come and talk to someone and have a real deep conversation, you don't know who it could save. It can save many lives out here. So I definitely agree with both of y'all. And I think that, you know, a lot more men need to have those conversations.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of us as men in here definitely need to have those conversations. In your opinion, or my opinion, what are some positive attributes or qualities that all men should embrace in order to redefine masculinity in a more inclusive and progressive way, right? And the way that I think about that is when I look at myself and then I look at my daughter, I feel like, it's important for the male presence to be in a daughter's life, right? That's super important. So if my daughter doesn't see that I cry, or she doesn't see me and her mom argue, or she doesn't see, all the attributes of me, how can she know who the true me is? So what I try to do is I try to tell the truth, be honest about everything that I'm doing, right? Even when I go into therapy, I try to be as truthful as possible. I remember being in therapy, it was like I was blaming football for everything. I'm like, football is the reason why I feel like this, right? And then she started taking me back to when I was 8 years old, and I'm like, man, I forgot all about that. And that's kind of what happens. So I feel like, us redefining that, as a man and going through that. I mean, what about you?
Ooh. Really, if I can be a stepping stone for, I'm all about kids. As y'all can see, I got 5 kids. I got 5 kids. I love kids. If I can be a stepping stone to change the way these kids communicate, I'm gonna tell y'all a quick little story. I'm not gonna go off too long, but my stepmother, which is I call my bonus mom, she lives in California, and she has this program. I think it's something justice, but I just visited her 2 weekends ago. I walk into class and they're talking about respect. These are 4th graders now, right? These are 4th graders. So I go into class and she asks, what are ways that people cannot see how to respect somebody? A 4th grader got up. This was crazy. A 4th grader got up and said, some people are in fight or flight modes. I'm like, right? When you was in 4th grade, I wasn't saying words like this. I wasn't thinking about stuff like this. And just to hear those type of conversations coming from 4th graders, I really sat in the back of that room, was like, yo, the world is going to be all right. Like, the world is going to be okay, because they having these conversations in 4th grade. When we was in 4th grade, we was talking about how to be tough, or who's a punk, or who doesn't look good. But now we having conversations that's not only engaging in a person's personality, engaging in who they are, engaging in confrontation, right? Because that's the one thing that I feel like as a man and as a person in this world, we all struggle with, how to communicate through confrontation. Like, when that comes, everything just falls off the cliff. So being able to see kids do that gives me more motivation to get better myself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting better myself now. I'm able to have conversations with my father. I'm able to have conversations with my father about how he's treating his wife. He's able to see it now. He's able to have conversations about how I'm treating my wife in certain situations. So it's dope to the point where now me, my father, my brother, and my uncle now get on a call every Sunday, talk about how we can be better people overall. Business, family, wives, faith, everything. You know what I mean? And that's not normal. My father never experienced that, and a lot of men in this crowd, I'm pretty sure, never experienced that with their fathers. So it's pretty cool to now our wives can hear these conversations. Now our wives can now relate with us and be able to help us through this. So being that stepping stone to change that at an early age, now kids is able to have relationships. I'm not talking about friendships, all types of relationships, and being able to talk about these feelings and these conversations with everybody is going to change the whole dynamic of how we're actually moving in this world. And for me, that is gold to me, because I called myself a gorilla, but I was really a scared gorilla, because I never really wanted to face anything that made me cry. I never wanted to face anything that made me sad. I wanted to face everything that made me a tough guy. You know what I mean? So now I'm happy to be the man that's in front of women saying, yo, that hurt my feelings. You know what I mean? Like, we can get into it. My wife can say something to me, and I can just sit there and say, yo, baby, you hurt my feelings. She gonna look like, at first, she didn't know what to do. because that's not normal. But it's dope, right? It's like you ain't really gonna hear stuff like that. So like that is a gold brick in my pocket right there. Being able to give these kids the tools to succeed in communication through all types of varieties of confrontation and through all types of relationships.
Man, hey, bro, that's real. That's some real stuff right there, man. We all know as a man, that's some real stuff. And how you embrace that is amazing, bro. So I want to commend you first, brother, for even just embracing that and being able to put that out in the world, right?
I appreciate that.
I want to go to you. How do you embrace all your attributes and your masculinity and doing it the new way? How do you embrace it?
Right, that's something I struggled with. I'm gonna take it back. So I've been playing football since I was 5 years old. I was taught to, football is a violent sport. So that's all I was taught. Violence, you don't cry. If you did cry when you was young, you get in trouble, right? Or you get a whooping. You're not allowed to cry, So you start turning off certain emotions. So for the longest, I get to the NFL, I don't remember the last time I cried prior to therapy, right? And that's not normal, right? So I remember I went to my aunt's funeral. There's one of the ladies who raised me, and I didn't cry. I'm like, dang, something's wrong with me. But you see why? Because I couldn't play football happy on Sundays. It's no such thing, right? I have to be violent. I gotta feed my family at the end of the day, and nothing's normal about that. Nothing's normal about two human beings running into each other full speed, hitting each other in the head. Let's just be honest. I'm going to put it out there. So, like I said, emotions was turned off, and that's not good. So by going to therapy, like I said, I was talking to my therapist, and we dove into a lot of my trauma from childhood. First time I cried since I can remember, I ran out the room. I was so embarrassed. And I'm like, why am I feeling this way? That it was weird to me, I'm not gonna lie. And, I kept on going and stuff, and she's like, that's normal. Men do cry. I'm like, well, my whole life I was taught that's not normal. So by me embracing it, and I do have a daughter, showing that I have these emotions, that they're turned back on, and I worked, and I'm still working extremely hard to, to make sure they stay turned on for her. I think that's, pretty much the root of it, to me, being a leader for her.
Bro, that's real. You might want to say that's your superpower, bro. That's something that you were able to figure out and able to release, right? We oftentimes understand when we go into therapy, and that first time you just let it all out, it's like a release from years and years and years of not crying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a fact.
That's a whole thing in a nutshell, and I feel like through our NFL journeys, inspiration, the things that we saw, right, playing the barbaric sport that we do play, how do we change the landscape of what it really means to be an athlete and also get help, right? Because you got kids who are coming after us, right? You have young individuals who think that, they think that, hey, I need to make it to the NFL in order to feed my family. Or they think crying is not going to get it, right? But really crying is good for the soul. Yeah. So how do we help young individuals get there and really understand what it really means?
People always ask me the question, if you had a son, would you let him play football? I get that question all the time. I say, yeah, I would, but I'm going to prepare him to what comes with it, right? So I think young athletes who are following behind us, having men like us explaining and talking about the importance of mental health and mental health, I think that they're in good shape.
For me, I didn't play football growing up. I started playing football in high school. Then I just didn't like being beat at anything, so that's what really kept me going. And that gave me a different perspective, because flat out, the same way that we train ourselves to go to the NFL is the same way we should train our inner beings, right? The same way we pay trainers to train us is the same way we should pay somebody to help us with our mental health, right? That should be also, right? They have us come to a combine, they have us ask all these questions, but they never ask us about our mental health. They don't ask us about what we going through in life, right? They always pick at what are the things that are negative in our life instead of trying to help us get through it. So to answer your question, to pave that way, I believe cold-heartedly, we need to make it as important as it is on an everyday basis. The same way we train our body, we have to train our mind. You know what I mean? Like, we have to. And these kids should not start receiving this when they get to college. Nowadays, right, the world has changed. We have social media. Everybody's screwed. Everybody. You know what I mean? Like, that's the one thing I'll say growing up in the 90s. I'm a 90s baby. Growing up in the 90s, we ain't have social media, so we didn't know a lot. A lot of things didn't cross our mind. A lot of things didn't make us question ourselves. These kids nowadays, one day in high school, they're getting paid, right? So they're getting paid. Now they have. I was fortunate enough to go in the first round, and then that's when people started asking me for money. These kids in high school, they 16, 15 years old. They got grown adults now asking them for money. So what you think, that's not going to bring trauma even faster? That's going to be even crazier. So I think we need to start at the high school level. I think we need to have trainers for mental health the same way we have trainers for our body. We need to have trainers for our mind.
Yeah, I agree.
And not to cut you off, but I think we should have when I say trainers, meaning us, right? Because that's the one thing that I would say, and I'm sorry to cut you off, that's the one thing that I would say is not, I won't say it is, but that creates a negative, I guess, outlook on things is when anybody steps into a therapist's office, the first thing they're going to say, you don't know me. Right? You don't know what I've been through. You can't relate to me. Now we have guys like Marcus. Now we have guys like Corey, who we've been in those shoes. We've been poor. We've one day woke up. For me, my story is I was broke. The day I got drafted, I was broke. I went to go eat. I'm sitting there looking at my phone, trying to make sure that I can pay for the bill. I just went first round. Next thing I do, I check my phone. There's $2 million in my bank account. What in the world? The first thing I'm thinking, damn, I could buy this whole restaurant. But do you see how stupid? And yeah, it's funny, and it's like it's a good feeling, but it's the worst feeling in the world because the first question that came to my mind, what am I gonna do? Right? I had no idea what I was going to do, and the people that was around me didn't have no idea neither, because they grew up worse than me. So where was I going to go? So having those resources and having those people in your life that you can relate to and that you can connect with is a big thing. So not just having Joe Schmo from the NFL, because that's what we all know of, right? We all know corporate companies bring in people who are for them, right? We need to have people who are like us, who are us, that's able to give that same relatable conversation and give that advice that we done been there. We done did the dumb stuff that you about to do. We done bought these cars. We done bought this jewelry. We done spent our first check on what we wanted instead of going to look for an investment property to set up ourselves for after football. You get what I'm saying? So those type of resources, if we can have coming out of high school, I guarantee you that stigmatism of people in the NFL for 3 years or not for long is going to go right out the window.
That's real, bro. That's super real. And obviously, we just really just brought the locker room to you, right? We want these conversations to be more in the locker room, but then also just with men in general. We want to be those pillars in the community, and we want to be vulnerable for you to be able to speak up. So we appreciate Blackbird. We appreciate this festival. We appreciate everything for allowing us to be able to come on this stage, to be able to speak to you. And we pray and we hope that you can take something away from this. And if you need to go get help, please go get help. And speak up, man. Speak up. So, yeah.
We doing questions? Okay. We can take some questions. I like
two questions?
I like the people. I like the people. And plus, it opens up some conversation. We got
Yeah.
time?
Yeah, we got 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
Okay.
All right.
2 minutes.
Anybody got?
If you got any questions, we got 2 minutes.
Go ahead, my man.
We got to get your name first, man. We got to get. There you go. There you go. Congratulations.
So I love what y'all said about vulnerability, but I'm wondering what place does that have, like when communicating with your coaches and stuff like that? Because also, like you said, the college landscape is changing.
Can everybody hear him back there?
So yeah, like I said, I like what y'all said about vulnerability, but I'm wondering how do you integrate that in the spaces in the locker room and having conversations with your coach, because the landscape is changing with NIL and the transfer portal. It's like, man, if he talking like this, like, you know, it could be fearful of coming to a coach and being vulnerable, you know? So how do y'all feel about that?
Yeah, I think that comes with the emotional intelligence that we talk about. Like, we have to start educating the coaches too as well, because they only know one thing, right? And their jobs are on the line too, right? So if, you know, as a coach, if you're trying to get a kid to play and that's all he's thinking about, if a kid comes to him and says something like, hey man, I'm thinking about this, or I'm doing this, he may kind of like push it to the side and say, oh, I'm gonna get the next guy. But I think we have to start creating programs even for the coaches, maybe coaches clinic, mental health coaching clinics that will help them understand what kids really go through coming up in the college ranks, because you spoke on it. They're getting money now, and these things are happening, so it's happening sooner than you do when you come to the NFL. So I would just say, you know, we have to start educating those coaches, because they may not be equipped to take on what the kid may be wanting them or wanting them to hear.
Hi, my name is Imani, and I was wondering, how can teams integrate mental health resources and practices for players throughout their time with the team and going beyond just like rookie mini camp and some of those early year trainings and experiences?
I'm a realist, right? So in order for that to be really effective, it's going to have to come from, right, the great players on that team, right? Because we're all real. We're all real in here. We're not going to sit there and lie. If somebody that sucks that's on that team and goes to the coach, he's going to be pushed to the side. So the ones who have a voice has to come out and make it a point. So to answer your question, going to these different teams, going to these, having these meetings with the players to come together to enforce them, because we're gonna have to enforce them, because it's not gonna really be a benefit for them, right? For the coaches and for the organizations, because the only thing that does is just either put some sort of potential problem in the realm of it, because somebody's gonna say something that's gonna make the outlook of that organization look a certain way, right? Because if you have somebody who grew up with domestic violence in their life, they're not gonna want to put that out there and try to help that person deal with it, right? Because it looks bad. So it's gonna have to come within, and us as players, us as men, us as a group is gonna really have to come together and create a pathway, and that's what we're essentially trying to do as not active, as retired players, but we're gonna have to get to the active players.
One more question. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Kai. I just want to say, as a black woman, it's amazing to see black men speak on something that you don't typically see nowadays. So I guess my question is, as a black woman, as a woman, what can women or femme-presenting people do to provide men with the courage and the ability to speak more about these things? Like, how can we best support men as well so we can have more conversations like this?
I can answer this. Go ahead. All right. And the reason why I say that like that is because this is what I'm actively working on with my wife, right? And this comes from us as well. It's both. It's the women and the men, right? Because if you consistently have an uncomfortable place when it comes to us being vulnerable, I apologize. Let me re-say this. if our reaction isn't consistent with our women, they're not going to understand how we really feel, right? And then that doesn't give y'all an opportunity to also see us for being this vulnerable man, because just like men, just like women grow up in this world having to put on even a harder shell, right? I grew up with a single-family home with a strong mom. Like, my mom is my queen, you know what I mean? So seeing her and seeing how she reacts to certain things, I had to help her understand, like, yo, Ma, I be hurt too. Now with her husband, she's starting to understand how to, not react to his manly trauma issues, because we all got them. We all got manly trauma issues. It's not coming from a malicious place. It's just coming from what we've been taught to do. So to answer your question is give grace, change perspective, because the world is perspective, right? Because you can say one word and mean one thing and say the same word and mean a whole different thing. So definitely give grace, change perspective, and allow the person to fail and help the person get up. Because when that person messes up, don't look at it. You're in a relationship with a person, right? Y'all got to that place from love, from trust, some sort of trust. And one thing that I had to learn is when you look at a situation in a different perspective, that allows you to give your partner so much grace and so much leeway that they're going to eventually have to change. Like, it's going to have to. You know what I mean? And if it doesn't, that person on the other side is going to see why it didn't change. And then eventually they're going to wind up changing. So I'll just, like I said, those three things: give grace. Give grace. Damn, I really feel. Yeah, can y'all help me here? So what are the three things? Is give grace. And then what's the last one? I said only two things? Okay, I apologize. give grace and change your perspective. And I think that'll allow us as a whole to get better. There you go. See, that's what. Can I get your name back there? Can I get your name? Can I get your name? Nice to. Oh, that's a beautiful name. There we go. Look at that. Black don't crack, baby.
Yeah, so
I have a little bit too much fun up here sometimes. I apologize.
But like I said, obviously you see we brought the locker room to you. We're glad that you could, hear our true selves, and we just up here being us, and we want you to be you. So thank you for the opportunity, and man, God bless.
Thank you.
And while these boys are up here too, I just want to say a quick thank you to you all for being incredibly vulnerable, authentic, so real. I can feel the energy in this room. You've impacted so many people here today. And for those of you who weren't here in the very beginning, just to quickly introduce, my name is Alexandra Miles, and I run Project Blackbird, which is an organization that takes this conversation around and brings different voices into the room to shed shame, to get rid of the shame and silence that exists when it comes to mental health discussion in so many different communities. I tell my story and the story of a young woman who I met at an eating disorder treatment center, but our story is not the only story. So in every location that we go to, we bring someone else's voice into the room. And so this year, we're going to about 50 different college campuses. That's our main avenue. And one thing that I really struggle with, honestly, is asking for help. And I am trying to get better at it. And so I am standing here today saying that, practicing what I preach, which is that we can't do this alone. We have to want to understand each other. We have to look at each other and be with each other. And so I'm asking for help with being brave and doing what is really terrifying, which is sometimes being the first to say, I'm not okay. Share your own voice with others, be vulnerable with others like these guys have with me here today. Because when we do that, we encourage other people to do the same thing. And we let everybody else know that they're not alone. So there's a couple of course, there's a couple of other ways to help too. One of which we're giving away little swag bags outside on the table for donation, different donations we're giving back to, and giving some fun goodies in there. We have sweatshirts to shed shame that you can rock on our website. And our website is projectblackbirdinc.org. But lastly, one real way that you can help shed shame, you have journal prompts, or if you don't have one in the back of the room, they're on the seats in front of you. There are journal prompts there. And before you leave today, if you could take a moment to just fill that journal prompt out. It's all anonymous, and you can keep it if you'd like, but you have the option to come visit me at the table outside and drop off your response, leave your response behind, and take home with you a prior Project Blackbird participant's response. I collect these as I go on tour, and the point of that is to really sit with a stranger and quite literally understand in the moment that everyone struggles with something, and nobody in this room is alone. We're all so much more connected. You don't know what that person looks like, where they come from, what their background is, but you know that you hold them, and it's sacred, and you're not alone. So if you'll participate in that, I'll be outside in the back of the room collecting those. And thank you all so much for helping us shed shame. Thank you guys for helping us shed shame.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate that conversation. We'll let them get their pictures, but I remind you that there's tons of other activities throughout the Black Future House as well. There's a shop next door, really cute body jewelry, as well as a relaxation room in the back. Thank you for joining us throughout the